Howdy, howdy. Welcome on in to the pre-show before the free show.
Mm-hmm. You gonna tell people?
Tell people I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back.
She's back from Sandals. She's been playing her steel drums all morning.
I love the reference.
Hot. It's been nothing but steel drums this morning.
Yeah.
I
actually came back with my hair like completely braided and stuff, and Tepper told me I had to take it out.
I know.
So
it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
How was your vacay?
It was awesome.
I presume that you and the gals were just running around
doing hood rat stuff.
Just drinking daiquiris. Did you enjoy the all-inclusive experience? Did I lie to you about the all-inclusive experience?
Oh, buddy, no. It was that's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just it was weird at first, like just walking up to the bar and saying, "Hey, can I have a margarita?" And they're like,
"Here you go.
You want 7 more?" And it's like, yeah, I do actually. Keep them coming.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was awesome. The resort was great. The food. Honestly,
just kept coming.
The omelets. The omelet bar, the unlimited omelets. Like I talked to Rob earlier. I was like, I realistically could have gotten there for like 7 to 10:30 was the unlimited breakfast buffet. Like I should have just went and seen how many omelets I could have hammered down in 3 hours. Like
I expected nothing less.
Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like we rented a jet ski and we did massages. It was great. We got the full experience. But the unlimited omelets. I mean, I woke up at like 6:30 every morning, like omelet time. Like I never slept in because I was so excited for the omelets.
What a life you lead,
dude!
You're living your best life out here.
It was elite.
Well, I'm glad you had fun.
Thank you. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch a single show, but I have no doubt that my girl crushed it.
She was great.
In the seat.
She was not the problem with the show.
It was,
per usual.
It's the same problem that we've had for 1,202 episodes now.
The problem is constant. We know what the problem is. We've identified the problem, and we've done nothing to fix it.
Yes.
This weekend,
I
spent my weekend painting.
Yeah, big boy room time.
Hank's getting a big boy room.
How exciting is that?
And so I spent my weekend painting, and I was thinking about it. I don't love painting. I don't mind it. As far as domestic things are concerned, it's not the worst thing.
No.
But there is a unique thing about painting, which is, and what we did is that I basically told my wife, I was like, I'll paint, you take care of Hank, and I'll just go do it. And so I did have a lot of time to think, listen to podcasts and stuff like that. AirPods, big game changer in the painting game.
Huge. You ain't got to worry about that cord.
Big game changer in the painting game. Anyway, but I was thinking about this, that, because what we did was I taped off the room, painted the walls.
Taping's the worst part.
I'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Taped off the room, painted the walls, let it dry. That was Saturday. Sunday, taped off everything else and did the trim. So did like the doors because my wife wants the trim to be. She finally found a white that she likes.
All right, that is a big deal.
A white and a gray that she likes. It's just white and gray, guys. Anyway, but that's a unique phenomenon with tasks, in the sense that you hit the nail on the head. Taping is the worst part of that.
It's so bad.
Once you're painting, I mean, it's not incredible, but it's like, you're just going along painting, blah, blah, blah. It's time-consuming, but it's fine.
If you mess up, you can let it dry and keep going.
The taping is the worst part, and I'm trying to think of another thing, another activity.
That the pre is way worse than doing it?
Yeah, that the prep work is worse than the actual action.
Man, I got one. We got my parents' house is on like 2.5 acres, and my dad used to make my brother and I go out and pick up sticks before we would actually do the mowing. Now, the mowing was fine, but 2.5 acres with a bunch of trees,
that's tough.
Picking up the sticks beforehand was 10 times worse than hopping on a mower.
And because I was going to say, like, because mowing It's like, it's not a big deal for like me. I live in suburbia.
Right.
Like, not a big deal for me to get out the mower, fill it up with gas, and go. That's not, like, the prep work there is not very difficult.
We
right?
had to go watch out for
That's
rocks and sticks and all that stuff because it'll mess up the blades and then
Right.
your whole mower's shot.
Right.
So that's a prep work that stunk, LP. Look
Yeah,
at you.
but the other thing is, like, think about, like, vacuuming. Like, vacuuming's not a big deal. You just plug it in, you go. Like, there's very little prep work. And yet, like, with painting, that is, like, the worst part.
Yes.
The worst part is taping. I had to take off.
Because you have to do it correctly or it messes everything up, and that's pressure.
Yeah, trust me, we have not taken the tape off from the trim yet, and I'm like, it's okay. The 2 coats. And the other thing, and I've still got some on my hands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, not to get too far into the weeds of my painting experiences, but we use this latex paint on the trim because it was covered in, I don't know, basically it just works better.
Yeah.
But man, getting that thing off your hands, I was scrubbing.
See, and the hair, if any of it, mine thing's always the hair. Like, if any of it gets in my hair, that's just, it's a pain.
You're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever paint eaves on a house, like on a porch,
Oof.
you got to wear, like, a shower cap or something because it drips, and it's like there's nothing you can do to stop it. I had painted my hair for about a month after that.
So, just to be clear, Pickle went off to paradise.
Yes.
And I painted.
All is well in the world.
Happy weekend. Hit the theme expo. Let's go! Free money! Free
Hey, how to sing the blues, baby. Got a shot glass in your hand.
Yes, Joel. From the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Mothership here in beautiful Louisville, Texas. It's Texas Football Today, a show that's back from the weekend. My name's Greg Tepper. I'm the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. TexasFootball.com, a corresponding website. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. Whether you're watching us live at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, or you're listening to us on the podcast, which you can subscribe to on the podcast vendor of your choice. Either way, thank you for doing your part to support your local mediocre internet show. I am sitting over there at the helm today, back from her tropical vacation. She was just drinking
Everything.
daiquiris out of coconuts. She's the Duchess of the Dork. She's Ashley Pickle.
Didn't drink one out of a coconut, but
Did you see people drinking out of coconut?
Yeah,
Okay.
there were like people walking up and down the beach with the
yeah.
coconuts, and I thought about it.
Let me tell you, bang to hype ratio is way out of whack with that.
Didn't do it. I was like, I could just stay in the pool and go to the pool bar.
There's also people who like love coconut water.
I am not one of those.
I think
it tastes like bad sweet skim
and
milk.
Also, I think like
which is not real milk.
I think there's some sort of like a training benefit. Like I hear like people who are in shape be like, "Oh yeah, man."
Oh, so that's why we don't drink coconut water. It all makes sense now.
Right, exactly. Today is Monday, July 12th, 2021. 136 days till Thanksgiving. Happy birthday to Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is having a rough day. Luke Shaw, of course, scored for England yesterday in the Euro final, and that was the only goal they scored. And then they lost in penalties because it's not coming home. Today, this is episode 1202. On today's show, my friends, we've got headlines from across the state, including, believe it or not, more coaching changes.
Whoa.
Yeah, you were out of town.
Yeah.
And
I was logged off.
More coaching changes. Yeah, I didn't hear from you at all. And then, back half of the show, we will be joined by the one of the guys out there at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. I don't actually know what his title is. He's I just consider him the king of Lubbock. Carlos Silva Jr. from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal will join us to talk Texas Tech state of the program, talk about Matt Wells entering his third season out there in the LBK. We'll see what's happening out there. They call it the Hub City, right?
Sure. I honestly don't know that.
Do we first 4 through the door? Why I confirm that?
We sure do. It was Aaron Arbuckle, Daniel Agnew, Rob Hadaway, and Hector Rios. Welcome in, fellas.
The
Hub City. What would does it Hub stand for something?
Hub City.
I only
yeah,
see
it's known. Yeah, no, there's a number of cities that are known as Hub City. One of them is Lubbock.
Airport?
Another is Far. Another is Alice. It's not even the only hub city in Texas.
What does Hub stand for?
It's just like the hub. It's like a hub. It's a place where you go. A hub.
You're telling me Far, Texas has...
What I'm doing is I'm just repeating the word because I don't know. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, we'll also be announcing the winner of the All-Star Inflatables mascot costume challenge.
Yes.
We'll have that coming up here in a moment. Okie dokie. Let's get to some headlines from across the state, and we're going to start with this came down, I believe, literally while we had Shahan Jayaraja on the show on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
We were that there was a pretty big transfer that came down for SMU. SMU has picked up Isaac Slade Matataya.
Sure.
Matataya. He's transferring from Oregon to SMU now.
Mm-hmm.
He was a 4-star prospect. He was the number 2 ranked prospect out of Hawaii in 2017. He led the team in tackles last year. He had 65 tackles in 2019. He played for the reason that if you're like, why is this guy transferring from Oregon to SMU? The answer is probably has something to do with Jim Leavitt. Jim Leavitt is now the defensive coordinator at SMU. He was the defensive coordinator for Slade Matatia in his freshman year in Oregon in 2018.
There might just be this secret hub from Oregon to Texas now, though.
Who knows? May just be a path.
It's like a little tunnel.
But in any case, a pretty big pickup there for SMU as they pick up Isaac Slade Matatia, the linebacker out of Oregon, ranked as one of the very best guys in the transfer portal. Recently, The Athletic put out some story about like the 100 biggest impact transfers, and he's one of them. So big
SMU
get there
getting
for SMU.
Another big transfer.
I know, pretty
wild.
amazing. Some sad news here, and that has to do with LaDarryl McNeil. LaDarryl McNeil, you may remember the name. He was a star at Wilmer Hutchins. I believe, in fact, I know this for a fact because Greg Powers and I were going through old super teams last week, because that's how we party. He was a super team member, I want to say in 2011 or 2012, went to Tennessee and started 41 games for Tennessee. He has died at the age of 27 in a car wreck.
Oh, no.
A terrible news. I believe it's. I say that I want to be very clear about this. That I want to make sure I get this right. I had heard there was a car wreck. I want to make sure of this, but it was some sort of He said he was 27. I guess what they're saying is he. We're not seeing any details right now. Not that they're particularly important, but LaDarryl McNeil, 27 years old, has passed away
Thoughts to his family.
at the age of 27. Very sad. Like I said, a star out there at Wilmer Hutchins before he moved on to Tennessee. But he has passed away at the age of 27. LaDarryl McNeil is dead. Some Texas high school football coaching news in much less important news. But there was there are a couple of pretty significant moves that came down last week, believe it or not, in July. One of them, probably the biggest one, is that North Forney will have a new coach. Randy Jackson is retiring after 4 seasons at North Forney. He's been a head coach for 21 seasons, gone 170 and 78. He has been at North Forney for 4 seasons. He is retiring, from what we understand. Stepping down, they have promoted assistant head coach Eric Luster to head coach. Eric Luster has been a head coach before. He was head coach at Corpus Christi West Oso in the earlier part of the last decade. North Forney will have a new coach here on July 8th. That's pretty significant. Also, kind of cleaning up some other things. Cedar Park Vista Ridge. We mentioned that Rodney Vincent is is leaving Cedar Park Vista Ridge. They have hired they promoted their defensive coordinator Chad Scott to be their new head coach. Elsewhere, as far as external hires are concerned, Red Oak. So you remember, let's go through the process.
Say this is a ladder.
Here we go. All right, let's see if we can do this.
Down the path.
Let's see if we can do this. So Tom Westerberg leaves Barbers Hill. Okay,
So
big
nuts.
big explosion in space.
Yes.
Earth cools. Tom Westerberg
leaves
Barbers Hill to become the new AD at Hayes Consolidated ISD. Okay? He leaves to go there. Barbers Hill goes and hires Carl Absek. Carl Absek, the coach at Cedar Park, of course, guided them to a state championship game. He led them to a title, I believe, back in 2015. He is now moving on to Barbers Hill. Cedar Park goes and hires former Cedar Park assistant Michael Quintero. Michael Quintero was the coach at Red Oak. Red Oak, of course, was a pretty darn good school last year. Michael Quintero was promoted from defensive coordinator to head coach there at Red Oak. He is now leaving Red Oak to go to Cedar Park.
A place he's familiar with.
That leaves Red Oak open, and Red Oak, here's the headline, Red Oak has hired Tony Holmes. Tony Holmes is the DeSoto defensive coordinator, leaving that I-20 corridor, or at least one school in the I-20 corridor to go to
their
Red
OC
Oak.
was hired somewhere else too,
Yes,
correct?
DeSoto's had a few different coaching changes.
Claude is pumping them out over there.
Yeah, and so Tony Holmes, the new coach at Red Oak. That's a long way of saying that loop has finally closed. I think we might have missed this. If not, I'll mention it again. But Michael Young has left Lake Dallas to become the AD at Little Elm. Lake Dallas has made a hire. They have promoted their defensive coordinator Jason Young to be their new head coach. So that's cool. They don't have to change placard. Can just say Coach Young. They'll be good. Yeah, go ahead.
Six and say it's to the point of the Step Bomb season that if there are coaching changes, you can almost guarantee it's going to be an internal hire.
I think that's fair, or at least that's the. So
or they're going into a pocket of someone that they've had before.
So here's the thing. Right now at 12:12 p.m.
on the 12th,
on July 12th.
Ooh. It's a numbers
Some
podcast.
numbers are the same. There are 3 open UIL head football coaching jobs. Fort Worth Polytechnic is open.
The Parrots.
Santa Rosa is open. The Warriors. And Evadale is open.
Parrots.
No, Polytechnic's the Parrots. You got it. I was saying, saying that
like,
Santa Rosa.
No, it's literally Poly. Poly want a cracker.
Yes. I've never thought about that.
You ever put that together?
No, Santa Rosa.
I'm back.
Santa Rosa is open, and Evadale are open. Those are the 3 open jobs.
And Poly will be an internal hire. Was put in the comments
there
too.
We go. So there you go. We will see how those shake out. But I think finally silly season is starting to close. We had one more kind of big rush this week, and there's that. Okay. I want to point you to 3 things that we've got on the web. Okay. On the internets. You log on to your browser. You pop in the free hours from AOL, and you go to TexasFootball.com.
Make sure the dial-up tone's going.
Matt Stepp is starting his regional outlooks, where he's going region by region and giving his picks for the teams to watch and things he's excited about. I believe he's even picking all the playoff teams. They may be different than what's in this magazine because
stuff has changed.
Because not even just stuff has changed, but we also have different opinions. Like, this is the opinion of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Matt Stepp is entitled to his own opinion. He's a valuable member of the team that we take his thing into account, but it may be different. And so you can check out his predictions. I believe he got the first one. I think 6A Division 1 Region 1 is up right now. If I remember correctly, let's make sure. Yeah, 6A Division 1 Region 1. Or 6A, there's no Division 1. I'm sorry. 6A Region 1 Outlook is up. Predictions for every district, et cetera, et cetera. There's that. Also, Shahan J. Rogers got a piece up on TexasFootball.com about the top 25 biggest impact transfers in college football for Texas in 2021.
He just dropped that in the comments, too, so if you want the link directly to that, it's in there.
Yes, and so you can see who's going to be the biggest impact according to our college football insider, Shahan J. Rogers, on TexasFootball.com. And finally, I want to direct you to somewhere not on TexasFootball.com.
Because it's right here.
Oh, no.
Right?
I was going to do one more thing. There's one more link, and then we'll get to that.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. I was excited.
Not on TexasFootball.com. But our friends Friends? I don't know if they call us friends. I think that they're our friends. They may not think we're friends. At Good Bull Hunting. Good Bull Hunting is a Texas A&M blog, I believe in the SB Nation blogosphere. And they cover Texas A&M. Good dudes over there. I like them. They may not like me. That's fine. One of their guys, I believe Robert Barons wrote this.
Okay.
He's a psychopath.
Yes.
My kind of psychopath.
People.
He went through and he ranked the uniforms for all 41 4-year Texas college football programs, okay? From 41 to 1, he ranked all of them. It is exceptional. You should go read it. I agree with most of it. Not all of it. Okay. Most of it. It is, and so if you've ever wanted to see what he thinks of Texas A&M's Kingsville's uniform versus, say, Texas Tech's uniforms, you can see on Good Bull Hunting. It's an excellent piece, worth your time, and will certainly get people arguing, which I love. One more thing, Pickle, is that we are ready to announce the winner of the 2021 All-Star Inflatables Texas High School Football Mascot Costume Challenge. Of course, we had a long tournament going through a bracket challenge and voting determined by the fans of what you think is the best mascot costume in Texas high school football. We have a winner with thousands upon thousands of votes cast. We do have a winner. And the winner of the 2021 All-Star Inflatables Texas High School Football Mascot Costume Challenge.
Drum roll, please. And boom!
The Ducks of Taylor. The Taylor Ducks. The 2021 All-Star Inflatables Texas High School Football Mascot Costume Challenge champion. Congratulations to the Taylor community. That is quite a duck.
And this was the costume itself is it could be a way worse duck. That's a very very good.
It's not
duck.
only a good mascot, it's an excellent duck, which is what mattered. The Taylor Ducks, the winners of the 2021 All-Star Inflatables Texas High School Ball Mascot Costume Challenge. Thanks to everybody who voted. We appreciate it, and make sure you can check out more information on TexasFootball.com. We are Texas Football Today. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. You can follow us on Twitter at DCTF, like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's, and of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. TexasFootball.com is where you can find complete coverage of high school football, college football, and recruiting all across the Lone Star State. I hope you'll consider becoming a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe. That's our subscription package. 2 magazines, including this bad boy, and it's a good boy. This magazine, you get the 2021 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football mailed directly to you. You also get a year's worth of exclusive online content at TexasFootball.com, including premium podcasts, including all sorts of good stuff, access to our archives, stuff behind our paywall, including the top 25 transfers that I was mentioning. TexasFootball.com/subscribe to become Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider. What's a holiday that's coming up?
Go.
For Pickle's birthday, which is tomorrow, get your friend a subscription to Dave Campbell's Texas Football at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.
Sure.
Pickle, let's go to the hotline. We are continuing our series of State of the Program addresses, looking at the 12 FBS teams across the state of Texas. We have landed in the 806. Let's go up to Lubbock to talk with the man up there at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. We're joined by Carlos Silva, Jr. Carlos, how are you?
Fine, and you, Tip? How are you?
Doing excellent. Appreciate you hopping on with us. I know you're a busy man this time of year.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to be busy this time, as we all know what happened last year. So I think it's
nice
to just kind of have a sort of normalcy.
Absolutely true. All right. I want to ask you, we're here talking a little bit about Texas Tech Red Raiders. This is a program that obviously entering its 3rd year under Matt Wells, I think is under some pressure to win. Last year at 4-6 in a weird fits and starts season, take whatever you want from 2020. But, they go into this year, I think, with expectations to go out there and win some games. Apologies for the purposefully vague question, but when you take a look at what's happening out there in Lubbock, what do you think is the state of the program out there at Texas Tech?
I think it's exactly what you just laid out there, Trevor. After back-to-back 4-win seasons, there's a little bit of pressure on Matt Wells, but I think the one thing that everyone agree on, whether it's nationals, even though some are starting to kind of understand it, is they've really worked the transfer portal. They've been able to shore up some of the deficiencies they had where in the two depth, they may have not had all that depth that you were looking for when he initially got here after replacing Cliff Kingsbury. So I think the biggest thing, obviously, as you guys know, last year was letting go David Yost, their offensive coordinator, getting Sonny Cumbie in, and just getting a fresh new start on the offensive end, which is something that I think that's kind of foreign to Texas Tech fans, is the fact that your defense is going to probably be better than your offense, at least starting off, although Tyler Shuck should hopefully help you a little bit in terms of throwing the football a little bit farther down the field than maybe you had in previous years with David Yost and Sonny Cumbie wanting to be a little bit more aggressive. And he says it's a version of the air raid, but it's kind of his little take on it. I think that's something to look forward to. But I think when you look at Texas Tech with all the guys that they brought in, the TJ Storman from TCU to shore up the offensive line, which has got a bunch of guys that have experience, I think that's going to be really the biggest thing to watch. Is can this offense for Texas Tech really step up and score points, where the defense last year really showed that it was able to turn the ball over, get it to the offense, but they weren't able to take advantage of that last year.
You know, I think that in a year where there's not a ton of known commodities out there at the quarterback spot across the state of Texas, you know, Tech's in an interesting position in the sense that they have a new quarterback in Tyler Shuck, but he is a transfer and you know, a highly touted transfer. But you talk with Oregon fans, and they are, you know, they don't necessarily know what to think of him. When you're out there at camp, you're out there at practice, you're around the program, what is the vibe right now around Tyler Shuck? Because it does feel like a lot of the hopes of Texas Tech kind of taking the next step depend on him. What is the vibe right now around him leading that offense?
I think the one thing you can take away is that now there's a little bit of competition at the quarterback position, because I know everyone's going to be focused on Tyler Shuck, but then you have your leading guy that threw the football last year in Henry Colombi. He was very good last year. Alan Bowman, of course, didn't play too much last year due to injuries. He transferred to Michigan, but there's a lot of competition. And I think Tyler Shuck is certainly someone that is going to embrace that. He started 7 games at Oregon on their way to obviously some postseason accolades as well. And I think the only reason he transferred was because Anthony Brown, who replaced him at certain times throughout the season, for the Ducks last year, was probably the reason he decided to transfer. And obviously it was a huge coup for Tech, because you're going to get a guy that can throw the ball downfield, has a little bit of a dual threat ability, which is something that you were missing a little bit, maybe with Alan Bowman, and maybe Cliff Kingsbury with his offensive mind and genius, if you will, was able to hide it, so to speak, to where he was able to get a little bit quicker passes. And maybe now I think that's going to be really the key with Tyler Shuck. Yes, I think you're going to see a true quarterback. When you look at him, you think quarterback. I think that's the best way. Some people around the program have kind of said it's just he looks like a quarterback. And I know it sounds really dumb, but it's just he throws like a quarterback. He looks like a quarterback. But I think the important thing is, can you protect that quarterback? Because that's something that hasn't happened the last couple of years. You look at Henry Colombi, he was a guy that ran the football. Sometimes he had to lead the team in rushing in certain games because he was running for his life, as you guys kind of saw Texas Tech play last year. And I think that's something that if you can shore that up, you have plenty of playmakers to throw the ball to, including Kalen Geiger from Troy, a transfer that they just got recently, to provide more depth for the wide receiver core, which hopefully will have Eric Izukanma return in the fall after he broke his arm in 2 places during the spring.
Well, and you mentioned we're talking Carlos Silva Jr. Of the Lubbock Avalanche, journaling on Texas football today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF today. You mentioned the weapons that they're going to have. You know, not only the receivers, you know, you mentioned the transfer in Geiger, but Azukanma and guys like McLean Mannix and stuff like that. My question, and then you add in like the running back situation, you know, Sir Roderick Thompson. Is this the most complete set of skill position guys that Matt Wells has had since he arrived?
I think it's fair to say, because as I mentioned before, he knew that there were some holes and some deficiency in the depth chart. And I think they did a good job of finding guys in the transfer portal that, one, kind of got them old, which is something that Tim Tadlock likes to do every once in a while, or Chris Beard previously when he was at Texas Tech used to do, by getting the transfer portal, getting some guys that have experience and were able to, you know, not necessarily need a year or two to wait for them to develop. They already knew what they had. They knew the resume. The resume was their tape. So I'm sure that's what they saw with Kalen Geiger. They knew he was a guy that could bring in some experience, some leadership, and not only that, but he was a pretty darn good player. An all Sun Belt player, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's something that you can look at. But the thing is like I said, Tepper, if you're not able to block for Tyler Shuck or create those running lanes for Serader Thompson, if he's able to come back after that shoulder surgery that he had in the spring, although you do have some other guys in Taj Brooks and Xavier White and all these other guys at the running back position. Yes, to your point, they do have a lot more depth. They do have a lot more playmakers, but can you block for them or can you create those running lanes? I think that's going to be the key for the offense this year for Texas Tech.
Nobody ever talks about Texas Tech's defense, which is a shame because I don't know. I sit here and Keith Patterson, the defensive coordinator, I think is a guy who flies under people's radar. I think that they have pretty quietly improved. I'm not saying that this is one of the best defenses in the country or anything like that, but it does look like they've taken steps forward. And it seems like that could continue. That trajectory could continue into 2021. Do you get the feeling that Tech's defense could take that next step and become a legit asset as opposed to just maybe not the biggest liability that it has been in the past?
I would almost argue to say that they were not a liability last year. They created turnovers. They made goal line stops. I think the most memorable one was Colin Schooler almost decleating the Baylor quarterback at the goal line last year and just showing, okay, this is why Texas Tech went after Colin Schooler and kind of showed his talent. And he returns, by the way, along with Rico Jeffers, Jacob Morgenstern, and 5 of the top 8 tacklers last year, if I'm not mistaken, were linebackers. So I think that's going to be something that you can look at as something that Keith Patterson's going to really enjoy, is the fact that all of his linebackers already know his system. They already know how to play. They're going to make open field tackles. They have a pretty decent secondary with DeMarcus Fields returning and some of the other transfers that I was talking to you about. I know Adrian Fry returns. He was with Texas Tech. But then you look at a Rashad Williams from UCLA, Eric Monroe, LSU. He returns for a second year. He's looking to play a lot better. But the guy that everyone is really excited about is Marquise Waters out of Duke. Didn't play that much there, but it seems like everyone in the program is really talking about how much he could make a difference, including Matt Wells. And I think that's the name that you're going to be hearing in the fall. And if he does make a big difference, that's going to be huge for Texas Tech. But just like on offense, where a battle will be won with the trenches, I think the trenches will be where Texas Tech will know if their defense is good or not. Because, yes, they do return some guys on the defensive line, like a Tony Bradford, Jalen Hutchins, and Tyree Wilson. But after that, you're kind of like what I was talking about with offense. The depth chart, it's not as where you'd like it on the defensive line. But the top 3, like I said, the Jalen Hutchins, Tony Bradford, the Tyree Wilson, hopefully with a true year of off-season work instead of just getting here right before August practices, I think that should help them. Now, whether or not they can kind of stay on the field as long as they can, I know Keith Patterson likes to have a nice rotation. That will be seen in the fall. But I think that's going to be the one part of the defense that if you're a Tech fan, you can kind of watch. And if that succeeds, that means your defense is going to be pretty good.
Finally, with Carlos Silva of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal here, this is year 3 for Matt Wells. And obviously 2020, it's hard to count that as a full year. It was such a strange situation. Most places will tell you that if you're not showing progress by year 3, then you're on the hot seat. Not asking to tell me whether or not Matt Wells' job is in jeopardy. What I will ask though is what would constitute success for Texas Tech? I don't think anybody's expecting them to go out there and win a national championship this year. But what would constitute success for Texas Tech in 2021?
Well, certainly more than 4 wins, in a joking manner, obviously. But I think 6 to 7 would probably answer your question. 6 to 7 wins, and not only that, but get to a bowl game, because that's essentially what you're looking for. Initially, when he was hired, Kirby Hope had said that he wanted an elite coach to kind of lead this program. And obviously, maybe the wording is probably still correct in his mind. But the thing is after 2 years, if you only have 8 wins, not necessarily the type of coach that you're looking for. But the thing is he has been building this team to this 3rd year. And like I said, there's a lot of talent on this team, but can they put it all together? And I think that's going to be the general storyline here for Texas Tech is, yes, they've struggled the first 2 years, but they've been building. They finally got a new offensive coordinator. They got the quarterback that they feel that can lead them to the promised land in terms of what they want to do on the offensive side of the ball. The defense seems to be really good with Keith Patterson in his third year with the program here. So I think the product is there. It's just, will the results show? And I think that's going to be what, makes the hot seats or the seat get a little bit warmer for Matt Wells throughout the fall. But certainly the non-conference looks pretty good for Texas Tech as they start with Houston. But I think Big 12 is really where he has to show some progress, because you've only won 5 games in the Big 12 in those first 2 years. You certainly have to at least try to get yourself a winning record in the Big 12, or at least 500. And I think that's showing progress for Texas Tech and Matt Wells.
He's Carlos Silva Jr. He's the sports editor there at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. Follow him on Twitter at CM Silva Jr. Carlos, appreciate your time, my man. And I guess we'll probably see you next week in Arlington. Is that correct?
That would be correct. I will actually be Big 12 Media Day probably around 5 or 6 tomorrow with Don Williams. So if you guys want to chat with good old Don, the encyclopedia of Lubbock. I know you like to joke and call me the king. Don is technically the encyclopedia of Lubbock. So.
Well, looking forward to seeing you guys. Appreciate your time, my man.
Yes, sir.
There he goes. Carlos Silva Jr. of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal joining us here on Texas Football Today. I know Shahan J. Raja, our college football insider, is bullish on Tech.
Yeah.
And and he's been, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's basically said on paper, he's like, I'm not, on paper is different than on the field. Absolutely.
Right.
Because on paper there's a lot to like about Tech.
Yeah.
In 2021.
If they can get that quarterback position figured out,
it's quarterback.
Click.
He mentioned it's quarterback, it's offensive line. I have concern. He mentioned the defensive line. I have concern about defensive line too. But those are the 3 spots. If they can just be pretty good there, I mean, there's no reason that they can't get into that kind of, let's say, second tier of the Big 12.
Right. Yeah.
Behind the Oklahomas and the Iowa States.
I don't think they're competing for a Big 12
championship,
but I don't think it's too much to ask for them to be in the top half.
No, but I think they could go. I think they could realistically go like 5-4, 6-3 in conference. You know what I mean? Like top end 6-3 would be really, really good.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll see. We appreciate Carlos Silva Jr. of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal hopping on with us. Now let's go over to the pickle jar. To a very, very tan Ashley Pickle, America's second favorite segment. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I got some good sun. It was nice. So Hector Rios clarified Lubbock's nickname, the Hub City, derives from it being the economic, educational, and healthcare hub of the multi-county region north of the Permian Basin and south of the Texas Panhandle, commonly called the South Plains.
Okay, so it's the hub of the South Plains.
Yeah, which I guess would make sense because you said Pharr was one of them, like down in the RGV.
They consider that like the hub of the RGV.
So that's the hub of the RGV. So I guess it's one of those things like when you have like the massive, massive regions of Texas, like but then you go into like what's the hub of the Piney Woods, or what's the is Longview the hub of East Tech, like. But yeah, I guess that makes sense when you've got a bunch of counties and wide open space.
Like your apartment is the hub of Party City.
Thank you. See, this all makes sense now. The math checks out.
It's gonna do it for us. Thanks for. Oh, I guess we should probably issue programming.
Yeah, we've
notes.
got a lot of programming notes.
Okay, so here's how this is going. I mentioned this Friday, but I'll mention it again. We had a show today. That's what's closing right now.
We just did that, actually. Yeah.
We will have a show tomorrow. I believe we're working on having Greg Powers and moving him up to tomorrow for This Week in Recruiting. There's no show Wednesday because Pickle and I are going to the Texas Six-Man Coaches Association clinic up in Wichita Falls.
Yeah, come say hi to us.
As she would say.
I know there's one of those coaches in the comments over here, but you can't guess who it is.
Yeet.
Yeet.
And then also Mallory and Shahan and I think Will are going to Big 12 Media Days, day 1. There's no show on Thursday for a number of reasons. One, I'll be celebrating my anniversary with my wife. I have to mention that. But also, Pickle and Mallory and Shahan and Will are going to Big 12 Media Days, day 2.
Yep.
We will have a show on Friday, God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll have a show on Friday. We'll do Mailbag Friday, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're not going to have a show until next Wednesday because we're going to be at THSCA Coaching School and Convention in San Antonio. So there's all that.
So we'll see you.
Just keep coming here, and if we have a show, great, and if not, whatever.
Don't yell at us on Twitter.
It's going to do it for for us. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at texasfootball.com. Thanks again to Carlos Silva Jr. of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal for being our guest. For Ashley Pickle, I'm Greg Tepper. Vince Young, please meet your Player of the Year trophy. We'll see you tomorrow on Texas Football Today.